Everyone, welcome back to Inland Empire Coaches Talk. Today I have the head basketball coach over at Ramona. Brendan, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on here. This will be kind of fun. It's been a while since I've been able to talk some basketball with some people. So
I know, we've all been kind of stuck in our little 12 by 12 bubbles at home.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell the folks at home, for the ones that don't know your background, basically a little bit of your background, how you came to Ramona, and what you've done with the program since.
I grew up in Northern California, so I've been in the LA area, Southern California region for about 10 years. I went to UCLA, have a degree in history. I teach at Ramona, and I'm the head girls basketball coach there. I've been coaching high school basketball for about 15 years. Fresh out of college, 22 years old, all of a sudden I got thrown into a varsity assistant's job at Elk Grove High School, which is my alma mater in Northern California. Did a couple years up there. Freshman head coach, went on to my first head coaching job at Galt High School up there as well. And so 2 years up there, then circumstances had me down here and worked at Rosemead for a year, moved on from there, went to another school, West Covina, moved on from there, did some charter schools for a few years. And 6 years ago, I found Ramona on a random ed join post in August and looking for a district job and looking for another opportunity to get back into high-level varsity sports, get out of that charter school realm for a while, and I've been there for 6 years now. And when I took over for Aronde Goodwin, who's now our boys coach, he went over from the girls to the boys. So it's been kind of a decade-long kind of program that we both kind of run. He gave me a program that was kind of brand new because he had graduated everybody before. He'd just gone through a 4-year period where he built the program up. They'd coming off of a playoff berth, and I had 2 returning players from the year before who didn't really play a whole lot. I think they had an average like 49 points a game that year before I got there. I think I had 2.3 coming back that first year that I was there. So it was really kind of nice for me to be able to just kind of start anew. And I had a great freshman class, which graduated last year, or 2 years, it graduated in 19. And so we just kind of built it together. And now I'm in year 6. And we went on a couple-year run there where it was pretty spectacular, and we'll probably get into that a little bit at some point. But I love Ramona, and it's a great place to be. We have great support from our admin and the rest of our coaching staff. Our athletic department's really awesome, and we're building something pretty special there.
Absolutely. And you can't, like you said, your very first job, Elk Grove is not that's no small fish to start your career in.
I went to high school there, and I went to high school with Lance Briggs, who was an All-Pro linebacker for the Chicago Bears, and we had a football team my freshman and sophomore year that went 27-1, setting all sorts of national records. We won 2 section titles. We went to 3 section finals in 4 years, and the baseball programs won numerous section titles. They just put a banner up by their baseball field with all the Major League Baseball alumni that program has graduated, and there's like 15, 20 of them. I mean, that athletic program really taught me what it looks like to achieve at a high level, kind of that culture of success. We called it the Elk Grove way. And I coach that way. We do a lot of the things that we do in my program, we do similar to what I learned when I was growing up. So starting my coaching career there, it was kind of, I was like, look, I played there, now I'm transitioning to coaching there. And so, there was no 4 years later when I started coaching there, it was all the same. And I've taken some of that culture, and I've taken a lot of the lessons and the process of building, and I brought it here, and it's given us a lot of success.
Absolutely. I mean, I always love the programs that give continuity and can really shape. I mean, it's high school athletics at some point, but a lot of the most successful high schools you see, the Elk Groves, the Modern Days, Centennial comes to mind, where they almost run it like a college campus. And there's so much, and Joan Tibbles does a great job at Ramona, from top down, and saying, this is the vision, this is how we're going to meet this standard, and this is the standard we're going to be moving towards.
Yeah, that's day one since I got there. That was a part of kind of my interview process when I first got the job. That's exactly what I talked about, was culture, continuity, streamlining success. And John and I were talking on Friday. I was just sitting in his office. We were just chatting about stuff, and I mentioned that we have very little turnover in our athletic department when it comes to coaches. I don't even remember the last time we hired a new coach. Even if we did, they were on campus already as an assistant or whatnot. It wasn't like we just brought in somebody brand new. So the continuity's been there, and the vision is there, and we had programs in places where we had a captain's council started by Sean Bannister, our aquatics coach, where all of our athletes are in a room talking about leadership skills, trying to build a common culture, not just through our own programs, but through the entire athletic department as athletes. We talk constantly amongst coaches, sharing the same vision. And I think that's why you're starting to see a streamline of success at Ramona, is because we all kind of have that same vision. And John kind of leads that. But he also lets us kind of do it the way we feel is successful for our athletes. Mm-hmm. And in a program like ours, we're not Division I, like, the Centennials of the world or the Kings of the world. Our population is slightly different than bigger schools like Roosevelt's got 5,000 kids in it. We are, knocking on the door 2,000. Mm-hmm. But it allows us to look at our personnel and allows us to kind of achieve the objective, but in our own styles. And we have very different personalities amongst our entire program, and it kind of makes for a nice, well-rounded view, and especially getting ideas from everybody else. But we're all going in the same direction, and that's my vision of my program. Is now that I'm in year 6, we're going down the same path. We have a motto in our program: walk the path. Mm-hmm. And we talk about the path to success, and it's filled with adversity. It's filled with challenges, and we teach our players you got to walk it. You got to walk that path if you want to get to success. At some point, if you go down the wrong road, you're going to circle right back to where you came from. Mm-hmm. You got to keep going down the path to get to the mountaintop, and that was a big part of the message about 4 years ago to the senior class I graduated 2 years ago, and they really embraced that and ran with it. And now we're starting to get back to that again as well.
Absolutely. I posted on Twitter today a quote that I love where it talks about success is built. Mm-hmm. It's not made from pure luck. It's what you do every single day when no one's watching.
Yeah, it's the success is built. What you do when the lights are on is a direct correlation to what you do when the lights are off. And I love practice. I love mm-hmm. planning. I love the process. And teaching high school kids, and this goes beyond athletics, teaching high school kids to fall in love with the process of learning. Mm-hmm. That's the number one goal when I'm in my classroom or when I'm out on the basketball court. If we can get kids that just love getting better, that love the process of building to that success, you're going to get success. It's going to be sustainable. And the kids are going to have that feeling of, wow, I just achieved something I never thought I could do or we could do. And that's the ultimate goal.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you get them on that cadence of success. Mm-hmm. Now they can be successful not only on the court, but in the classroom, at a job when things don't go our way with COVID.
John and I were talking about, we were looking at our photo from a couple years ago, and we had 9 seniors on that team that got to the state final. And we were saying, where are all these kids? One's at the Air Force Academy. Mm-hmm. One's going into the Navy. Several of them are at a 2-year university or a 4-year university, and they're all being successful. And they all have plans, and they all have direction. The underclassmen on that team, one's going to go to college on a basketball scholarship probably. The other ones, they have plans. I've talked to them. It's like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? They have plans and direction, and that's, I think, a big part of that is what we preach in our program is about walking that path, learning the process of learning, mental toughness, all of the good stuff that we talk about in athletics. And I think that's a big part of why our kids are really successful.
Absolutely. So you talked a little bit about the Elk Grove way and some of the people that have worked with you and you've learned from, but who would you say are some of the pillars, whether it's people that you look up to mm-hmm. or webinars that you've listened to, other coaches that you emulate?
Yeah, I love studying coaches. When I talk with my group of friends who I went to college with, I'm always talking about coaching styles. Like Brad Stevens is a guy that I love. Jay Wright from Villanova is a guy that I've really looked at and kind of watched how he does things. Tom Izzo from Michigan State. I watched a lot of his practice stuff and just kind of how he runs practice. But it's more really the guys that really had a profound effect on my life as people I've gotten to work with. Mm-hmm. The 2 guys that really got me started were 2 Elk Grove guys. Brian Benson, who was the head girls coach when I was teaching there, and then we had our defensive guy. His name was Dan Salvain. 2 high school coaches. Coach Salvain, he coached at Bishop O'Dowd in Oakland, mm-hmm. and he went to a couple state Final Fours in the 70s. And I remember the first time I met him, he was just this crazy old guy that was sitting over on the sidelines watching, and he was shaking. And I'm asking Brian, I'm like, what's up with this guy? He's like, that's Dan. Don't worry, in about an hour he's going to get off the bench and he's going to start talking. Sure enough, he sure did, and he ended up joining our staff for the 2 years that I was there. And as a 22-year-old, fresh out of college, learning how to coach, I sat next to him on every game, listened to his thoughts. I watched how he planned, how he went through his progressions. He was a defensive guy, and I ended up becoming a defensive guy myself. And those two guys, the way that they prepared, and that was the big thing that I learned, the preparation, the attention to detail, the focus on building towards a goal is really how I learned how to do this. And then at Rosemead High School, when I got there the second time, I had 2 stints at Rosemead. The first one I did was the boys' assistant coach for a year. We won a league championship in the Mission Valley League, and then lost to Campbell Hall. We were in between holidays, but had to deal with Austin McBroom. So we didn't get a break there. Then I left, and then I came back in 13-14 and 14-15 and worked with Sonny Hayes, who's the head boys coach still there. And being around him, it really, watching him kind of do the same thing, but it was the passion, how to really talk to kids a little bit better, because I was still learning. I'm still in my late 20s, early 30s, still kind of figuring this out. Mm-hmm. And I watched him, how he interacted with the high school kids. Building relationships was a big one there, and I was able to work with him and not only hone in on my craft. And I go to clinics all the time. I go to when Nike ran the clinic in Vegas, I went to that one every year. Mm-hmm. I watch a ton of basketball. Not just watch it to be a fan, but I watch games, and I study games, and I'm texting my coaches, hey, did you see that play? What did you think about that? My friends are like, can you, like the other night when Anthony Davis hit that game winner, the first thing I noticed was Miles Plumlee jumping behind that screen, not that fact that Davis came over and got a wide open shot. Things like that, and I'm always studying the game. But I get to Ramona, and I get introduced to a great community of coaches who are about the student first, who love Ramona. Laura Shiner. Mm-hmm. Laura...
I'm still actually kind of hurt, Laura, because you haven't been on the program yet. Yeah. But we'll talk about your Hall of Fame speech later.
Laura Shiner, when I first got there, I didn't know who she was. First of all, when I went and interviewed at Ramona, that may have been my second lifetime trip to Riverside. So I had no idea where anything is. And so I get onto campus that first day, and I'm learning, I'm meeting people, and I meet Laura, and I'm getting to know a little bit about her. For about a period of about a year, she was really intimidating to me. But that's because I figured out who she was, and I respect her a ton. She's a Ramona Hall of Famer, and one of the best to ever do it. Her program is one of the best around, not just softball wise, but just athletic programs, period. And I got to actually work in her program for the last couple of years. I got to coach JV softball for her program. And being in that program has also taught me a lot too. But being around coaches like Laura, Ken Mashinsky, Rondé, Clint Ball is another one that comes to mind. Adam Gonzalez, who works with our football and baseball programs. Even Sean Bannister. I can go on and on. The coaches that we have at Ramona have, and I'm the new guy. I still feel like the new guy, even though I've been there for 5 years now. But everybody's been around there, mm-hmm. and they're Ramona. They're Riverside people. They went to Ramona. They're Ramona alumni. It mattered that they kind of took me in and allowed me to be myself, but also kind of taught me the Ramona way and mm-hmm. taught me this is what it means to be a Ram, and it's meant a tremendous amount to me, and that's why, I love being there and being a part of that Ramona family.
Absolutely. I always love, because I get to talk to a lot of different coaches with different demographics, and yes, you have, like you mentioned, the kings of the world that have a much bigger budget than what Ramona has, but Riverside and Redlands also is very much, everything is their own little knit family, mm-hmm. very close to home, where even in today's advent where kids can jump back and forth, a lot of them still stay in that little microcosm that they've built because of that continuity. Yeah. And you have the Ramona way, you have the Rev way, you have mm-hmm. the Poly way, and all these different things where it's like, this is... I think of The Mandalorian. This is the way.
Yeah, this is the way. And, it's when we're scouting teams and when we're looking at opponents, that's one of the first things that we look at is what is their culture, what is their identity. And, our program at Ramona, we've worked really hard to try to establish an identity. And we mm-hmm. got a little bit away from that last year. Well, we were brand new. We graduated. We lost 12 of our 15 from our regional championship team the year before. We had 3 coming back. Yeah. So, we had to reestablish that identity. And I think, but part of that was, this is what we're trying to get to. We just don't know it yet because you don't know it yet. You haven't mm-hmm. been here long enough. And it's the all successful programs, no matter all championship programs, all successful programs have a culture, have an identity. You can easily identify who they are and what they do well and what they're all about. And programs that don't, well, they struggle. And I don't want to be one of those programs. I'm not in it to do that. And that's a big part of it's the most important part of what we do. But it also helps the students understand, like, I need to figure out my own identity. I need to figure out who I am. And so we help them understand who they are as well, and that serves them well after high school and into college and into their careers, because now they know what they do well and how they're going to be successful too.
Absolutely. Being able to look at the man or woman in the mirror and know what I'm staring back at is a huge thing. When we're training officials, I always talk about the process where get next to one of the greatest minds in our game and just sit and listen and see how they see the field, the court, because you're going to learn so much on process.
Yeah.
I can tell you what all day, and then you can teach why. But to have them truly understand the how, so then they can self-reflect, I think is one of the best things that any coach or teacher can do.
Yeah, I got to, when I was at UCLA, I worked in UCLA radio doing stuff like this, broadcasting football and basketball. And I remember being at Pac-12 Media Day. It was still the Pac-10 when I was being at Pac-10 Media Day, and me and my partner, we sat down with Dick Bennett, who was the coach of Washington State, and we sat down and listened to him talk basketball for over an hour. And he just talked and talked and talked. And me and my partner Larry over there were just like, wow, this is really cool. And just sitting next to guys like that. And I remember meeting my dad's high school coach one night, and I just listened to him tell stories of basketball, and just sitting, like you said, sitting next to people who have the experience, who understand how to be successful. And there's a lot of people that I've come across in my career that I just can I just sit next to you and watch what you do and listen to how you communicate and talk to your coaches. That's all I really want to do. And you pick up so much from that. And we try to model that for our student athletes and try to show them this is why we do it, but this is also how it's done. So you can model that same behavior. And modeling is so important for us as coaches to learn, but also as players as well. We want them to be able to do the same things when they're in positions of leadership. Because this is what leaders look like. This is what we want you to do.
Absolutely. So obviously we're trying to mold young minds and trying to help people at the high school level. Talk to me a little bit about how it's gone over the last 6 months after we all know basically March 15th when everything slammed shut. Right before March Madness, right before most of the playoff pushes were going on. How did you react to it? What was your thought process? How's it been?
It's been interesting. I mean, it's been twists and turns and a lot of waiting and being, it's really testing your patience. And for me, for us as coaches and with our players, it's been a lot of listening. We wanted to listen to their concerns. We wanted to listen to their opinions and their struggles. And, we've had conversations with our players, all of our coaches on our staff, at various points throughout the quarantine and throughout the shutdown, just trying to see where they're at mentally, making sure that they're okay, that they have a goal in mind, that they've got some things that they're planning on doing, and that they're just, one of the most important things that we found out is that the players, our student athletes, they struggle when they don't have kind of a goal to work towards, when they're just kind of sedentary, and that's when the depression sets in, the struggle set in, they feel lost. I had a lot of those conversations with the kids in our program over this time period, and it was really important to listen and then try to help them discover, okay, hey, find another hobby to do right now. Take up knitting, or find a show you want to binge watch, or you need a project. And right now
we're sitting in mine.
Yeah, and this is awesome. I love your little setup here. This is fantastic. And it's like, I needed a project. I needed to figure out something to do. And for a while, it was hard to find one. And, now that we're starting to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, now it's starting to ramp back up. I've been working in our playbook software, trying to put something together. I've been watching a little more film. Without sports for a while, there was nothing.
Yep.
It was funny. It was that week before, and I'm sitting around and stuff's shutting down, and somebody's like, well, what if they just shut down sports? I'm like, no, they're not going to do that. That can't happen. We need sports. Well, it got shut down. We found out that, especially for me, sports is the other half of my life. And so it for our student athletes, it's the same thing. They're tied into our athletic program. Just doing a lot of listening was really, really important, and being able to talk them through stuff like, well, you should do this, or you need to know. It's like, let's figure out something to do together. Let's give them some buy-in. And so we're trying to meet with them on a regular basis. We did that. I was meeting with the program every couple of weeks just to check in, see what they're up to, trying to give them some ideas to work on their own. Now we're trying to meet a little bit more to try to bring the group back together to try to get going, because all of a sudden it's going to be December, and games are coming right around the corner, and Thursdays when fall sports get to start, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes, and I'm excited for our fall sports programs this year and having an opportunity to get back on the field, at least in a conditioning aspect. I envy them to a certain degree, and hopefully that everything goes well for them, and that means that's going to be good news for us, because we're going to be able to get back in the gym doing what we love to do. And the kids want to get back in the gym. They're dying, and they are dying to get back in the gym, and they keep asking me, when are we going to get to go? When are we going to get to go? It's like, just got to be patient a little bit longer. But I never thought that this never even entered into my radar when I first started doing this 15 years ago. It's like all the possibilities that can happen. Something like this just never even orbited my universe. And we have to be flexible, just like everything else. And I think being a teacher has really helped me with that, understanding that we just got to roll with it, and I just got to be there for my student athletes and be there for my students and just kind of guide them through it, because they don't know what to do either, and they're looking for answers, and they look to us because we're supposed to have them.
Yeah. And I remember talking to Rob Morgan, and it was like, we were supposed to be the adults in the room, but all of us are still looking around like, what's going on right now?
Yeah, no kidding.
I was joking with one of my friends. I'm like, you do remember that Mad Max was supposed to happen in 2021? I was like, so we're between 2 hurricanes, 7 giant fires, COVID, this has been an interesting year for sure.
It has been, and I think when we come out of this, and I think we're going to have I hope that we have a new appreciation for things like athletics. Not just being able to play them, but what they mean in terms of our own growth and our own kind of universe and what we do. And it's a big part of our lives. And I think, I kind of took it for granted for a little bit, because this is what I do. I get up, I go teach every day, and I took my classroom for granted. And I never know how much I'd miss being in a classroom. But I knew I would, because this is what I do. This is what's in my blood. This is what my passion is. And then being in the gym, never thought that'd get taken away like this. It'd be like, I just, don't just not coaching right now because we have time off or one thing or another. But now it's like I literally can't do it because something is physically stopping me. Yep. And it's really given me a new appreciation for being in the gym with the athletes, and just that camaraderie and the closeness that we have and working together through basketball. And that's what I miss the most. And that's the one thing that I'm going to talk to them the first day we get to stand together in our huddle pre-practice, is like, we should never take this for granted again. We always say, play like it's your last day, play like there's no tomorrow. Well, now you understand what that really means.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. I remember J.J. Watt basically said, everyone just got put on the IR.
Yeah.
Like, where I don't think a lot of times athletes or coaches, officials, they don't, we take for granted, the Pac-12 and the Mountain West football, and I'm celebrating, we actually, let's keep this thing rolling, because we actually have 7 games to talk about, or 8 games, depending on which conference you're talking about. But when you go on the IR for the first time as a player, it's such an eye-opener, because you're like, I can't practice. I can't. And I think everyone, you can equate that to everyone in the United States just went on the IR.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I mean, our kids right now are like, well, can we do this? Can we do that? And I'm like, no, you can't do any of the things you just mentioned. Not yet. We'll get there. Let's just be. So they are chomping at the bit, and I feel bad for them, because this is what they want to do. This is, they have a passion for it. They're volunteering their time out of their busy school days and trying to navigate high school and trying to graduate and put themselves into a position to have options when they graduate high school, along with trying to play as a competitive high school sport or multiple sports in terms of, for some of our athletes, where, they're trying to, that's their outlet for all the frustrations that they deal with in their lives, is they get to go compete and run around and expel all the energy and be with a group of people that are going to support them and be a part of them as their athletic family. For that to be taken away, it's devastating. And so it's truly a unique situation, one that I never thought would ever exist, but it has. And as a history teacher, it's fascinating to a degree to observe it, but it was also terrifying and horrifying to actually live it.
Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit, because we've talked about multi-sport athletes, and obviously you've been an assistant for Laura, because you're, for the first time, going to be stacked with softball.
Yeah, and I've apologized to several of my players who are multi-sport athletes who play softball or run track or part of the swimming program, because we got lumped in with spring sports. Our football kids, some of them play volleyball. Our basketball kids, some of them run track and play baseball. And so there's a lot of overlap with winter sports, and our wrestling kids, some of them throw, some of them do other things. And so it's going to be much more difficult this year. I think you may see a stronger effort for these kids to try to play two sports in one season to see if they can. Mm-hmm. I knew people who were able to do that back in the day. I had a teammate at Elk Grove, on my golf team. I played high school golf there. He was our number one on our team, and he also played baseball. And so he was playing varsity baseball and playing golf at the same time. And he was great. He was the number one player in the city of Sacramento that year. Won NorCals as an individual while playing baseball in one of the most high-level programs that you can play in the Sacramento area. You don't see that a lot anymore, and you may see a little bit more of that this year just because of the necessity, especially at a school like ours, where we share a lot of athletes because of our population numbers. So, we're going to try. We've already talked as the athletic department to try to make that work a little bit easier to see if we can get that done, because it's unfair to the kids who are normally get a 3-sport season. Mm-hmm. Now it's cut down to 2 in a shorter amount of time. Basically it's second semester, we're going to play all sports. Yep. That's kind of crazy when you think about it, but it's what's necessary at the time. And so, we're still going to get full seasons in, which is great. And, I was worried about it's just going to be a 10-game league season quickly.
Well, you look at JC cutting 30% off the top. Like, okay.
Yeah. Our season's actually 8 days longer for basketball. Normally we only get 64 days. We're getting 72 this year. So it's kind of, 7 more days of practice or 6 more days of practice for us, which is great for me. But multi-sport athletes are crucial. They're the best. They're the most well-rounded athletes. Most of the time they're your better players. And the cross training is great for them. But they're really good kids too. They're always accountable. I always encourage the multi-sport athletes. I think they're important for a school's culture. Specialization is the name of the game now. Back when I was in high school, I'm sure you were too. If you didn't play 2 or 3 sports, then you were kind of lazy. Yep. I played 2. I could have played 3 sports. I played 2.
And I grew up in the Midwest where I had hockey as well.
Yeah, nice. Hockey's awesome. We didn't have hockey here, at least in Northern California. But
I have a very simple rule. If you can't make your own ice outside, you should not have a hockey team.
That's what
as Dallas is in the Stanley Cup Finals right now.
Makes a lot of as the California teams has done really well I love hockey, one of my favorite sports to watch. But yeah, it's our multi-sport athletes are.
Well, I think they're also so needed in a culture for crossover, because you have a lot of football guys that we'll only go to football, or maybe they'll do basketball, so then it's football and basketball, they'll only go to those 2 games. But you need that crossover, so then you have kids going to the track meets, you have kids who are on track that also will go to a basketball game, will go to and support baseball and softball. So every time you can get that intermixing and make dual try friendships. And I would also argue the same thing is true with band, same thing with choir, theater, etc.
We kind of have like a guideline at schools, school plus 2, where we want our kids to try to encourage to do at least 2 things that involve them extracurricularly. Same thing with the staff. You want to be involved in multiple stuff. That's why I like coaching all different sports. It was back in the 18-19, I coached girls golf, I coached our basketball program, and then I coached JV softball. I literally did not have a break until July. I went from our summers, from the beginning of school in August, because I went from summer basketball. I had July off. Started golf in August, and I didn't have a break until next July. I had no time off for any of those breaks, and I loved it. I was busy all the time. Was tired. I'm not gonna lie. I was exhausted after that year, but it was one of the most fulfilling years of my career because I got to do all sorts of things. I met people that I hadn't met before. I made some relationships with other personnel and other coaches from different sports. I ran into some people that I never thought I'd ever see again. I actually ran into some old friends that I thought I'd never see again, and it was a blast. And it kind of took me back to when I was playing, where you played 3, 4, 5 sports a year when you were a kid, and that's why I continued to. I was bummed when we got put into spring where I couldn't coach softball. And I called Laura and I'm like, "Well, this is not good." I miss it, and it's a sport like when Laura asked me, it's like, you do know I don't have any coaching experience in softball. Yeah, but you're a coach, you'll figure it out. I'm like, okay, let's do this. Granted, I can't come in until after basketball's over. Turned out that my season didn't end until almost mid-March that year because we were in the state final. So 3 game, we got back at this is great. We got back on Friday from Sacramento. We had a league game at Novi for softball on Monday. I had no practice with the team, nothing. I called Laura on Saturday. I'll be there. I'll be on the bus. Walk on the bus and meet with the team. It's like, I got no idea who you are. I don't know where you play. You guys are gonna have to help me through this game, and I'll figure it out by Wednesday.
It was the Bad News Bears.
Yeah, basically, and we ended up. We won. It was a cluster at times, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm going to miss coaching softball this year, but hopefully that we can get back to kind of some normalcy in 21-22.
That's the absolute hope. So last question, it's always the same for everybody. If you could say one phrase, one word of hope to your boosters, to your kids, to your community, what would it be?
One word of hope, or one phrase of hope. Just keep walking the path. I think more than ever we understand that dealing with adversity and overcoming struggles and doing it together, that's the last portion of that walk the path. I have it written inside of my ring, and it's that last portion is you got to do it together, and we got to keep doing it together. We got to be patient together. We got to go through the adversity together, and the more that we can do together, the more we're going to get out of it. Then the stronger we are getting through this and getting through any sort of adversity that we face. And I think that's one of the most important messages that we teach as coaches, that I teach in my program, and that we can learn as student athletes going forward, is that we got to walk our own individual paths, but you're not alone when you do.
Absolutely. Brendan, thank you for being on the program.
Hey, you might appreciate it.
For anybody who'd like to be on the program, please reach out. Past that, be safe. God bless.